Hello, I'm back, and this time we are back on our Lavagirl cosplay. I am making the bracers today. So I am actually making out my template from these bracers that I had for the Ren Fair. These are made out of leather, and I went ahead and just used it as like a little template to draw out just the basic shape of the bracers. And afterwards, I went ahead and grabbed my X-Acto knife and just cut them out. Be very, very careful with the X-Acto knife. I am using 5mm EVA foam from Joann's and an X-Acto knife that I ended up getting in school a while back, but you could literally just use any regular X-Acto knife. Some people even use a box cutter. So afterwards, I'm just making sure that they are going to be closing the way that I want them to close. And so far, yes. So that's the bracer that we're going to be making. I'm going to be using foam Mo as well. And I'm using some extra pieces to just go ahead and cut out the side of the bracer. It was extremely hard to find reference pictures for Lavagirl's bracers, especially because both of her bracers are different, and I had to just end up watching the movie and take pictures to look at references that way, meaning I ended up taking pictures of my screen. So a lot of stuff is by eye. But I'm actually working on creating a pattern right now to add to my third tier Patreon, so be on the lookout if you want to get the pattern for these bracers. It's going to be pretty much like the basic pattern as best as I possibly could, so y'all can create bracers like this of your own. So afterwards, I'm using contact cement and just spreading it all the way out. We all know that contact cement does need to get a little bit tacky, so I'm just kind of sticking it in a little bit and then holding it for a while it gets tacky. So this holding on does take quite a while, and afterwards, let's see. Afterwards, you're going to want to go ahead and open up your foam Mo and start molding. There's a little like ball at the very top of this piece. I add contact cement first and then go ahead and stick the moldable foam down. You could mold this however you want, and then I went ahead and did the middle. So just so you know why we kind of skipped through after I did the middle line is I ended up messing up. You learn from your mistakes, so I actually ended up doing the rest of this redo on my Twitch stream. I stream every Wednesday and Friday, Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. Central Time and Fridays at 5 p.m. Central Time, just so anybody, you know, in case you're wondering. I will go ahead and put the link as well, and the link is in the description below as well. So anyway, I had to redo this because I did not end up folding it so it would dry in shape. So that is going to be a big warning. So moldable foam is great. As you can see, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just molding it with my fingers, and once you mold it to your liking, which I'm molding it to how the picture looks like, you're actually going to be just adding some glue at the bottom, and then while that glue is down there, you could still mold it. You're pretty much just spreading it around because the glue doesn't dry immediately, and you're going to continue doing this step all the way through. So as you can see, that middle portion is separate, but I am trying to knead it in a way where it looks like all pieces are connected. And that middle piece does kind of have like a circular shape because this little ball that I'm molding with my fingers right now is going to go right in the middle. So I am adding some contact cement and spreading it around, and then adding the ball there in the middle and also molding it in a way where it looks more flat and kind of connected to that piece. So by the end, it's more like a half circle. So afterwards, I went ahead and did that second piece. This piece is actually backwards, so it's like looped backwards. I didn't have much trouble with this, you know, it's just pretty much molding with the feel, and it's kind of hard to get like an exact pattern for this, but I'm definitely going to try to include that in the Patreon pattern that I provide for y'all. It's mainly just going to be more for a template, just as a reference, because depending on what size bracer you need, you might need to make it a little bit bigger, you might need to make it a little bit smaller. I personally have very small arms and very small wrists, as well as just very short arms, so it just all depends for everybody. So this piece, as you can see, is a little bit smaller in that middle section as well. So I went ahead and added less moldable foam, and went ahead and just added a bigger circle because I noticed that there was a bigger circle in that area. Next, I went ahead and did the third one, which is the same, just a lot of molding, and then I'm going to go ahead and add some glue as well. First thing I do though, before I add the glue, is I mold it, and see how it would look once the main mold of it is done, and then I continue to finish my mold once it's on there. And for the middle circle, I'm literally just squishing my finger down and then kind of molding it more into that oval shape. And I am taking off foam to create those peaks at the ends. If you can tell, like, they look more curved towards the end because I'm actually removing foam. Like, it's okay if it gets a little bit of glue, like, there's no worry on that. Alrighty, so this piece is almost done. Now we're going to go ahead and do the other one and add a little bit of glue and just squish it down and try to mold it with the other moldable foam at the bottom. Now this is going to be the tricky part. You want to go ahead and start folding your EVA foam so it stays in its shape. So you could go ahead and use a heat gun, but when you use a heat gun and the moldable foam is still not wet, it will start kind of ripping apart. So you want to go ahead and just fold it and then duct tape it together so it starts shaping. As you can see, there are pieces that are cracking, so I went ahead and grabbed my moldable foam again. And once I grabbed the moldable foam, I went ahead and added more foam in those cracked areas to just smooth it out completely. So because the moldable foam does not dry immediately, you still have a chance to go ahead and fill in those sections and kind of still shape it in as if it's part of that piece. And I am just continuing to add duct tape to try to keep it as sturdy as possible. So the moldable foam, once it hits its 12-hour mark, which is when it's supposed to dry, it actually dries in that exact shape, which is what we want. And this is where I had issues last time, is I did not fold it. I kept it straight and it actually dried straight, and when I tried folding it, it cracked completely, which is why I had to redo it. But honestly, if we're gonna be like more honest here, because I said I learned from my mistakes, the second time around I feel like this bracer came out even better than the first time. So if you do mess up, don't worry about it, because it is going to come out better the second time. Now we're going to start with the second bracer. So just so y'all know, Lavagirl is very not symmetrical. So I went ahead and grabbed my extra pieces that I had here of EVA foam and started kind of drawing out the shapes that she has on her bracers. This was also just by eye. I had to create my own pattern, so this is what I mean by I will be giving y'all a rough well, not rough, but as best as I could make a EVA foam pattern for these bracers for y'all. If you go ahead and subscribe to my third tier Lavagirl, my third tier Patreon, which occasionally you might get some EVA foam patterns, which eventually, like I said, I would love to go ahead and put the Lavagirl patterns on there. Now I went ahead and cut that out, and I actually put some glue on it and sticked it right in the middle, because there was a shape like this shape, similar to this shape on her bracer, and I went ahead and added that in the middle. Then I went ahead and grabbed my scrap fabric and kind of lined it up to see what would look best here, because she just had a bunch of different types of shapes on that. They weren't really an exact, like, they weren't all the same, so I went ahead and just drew out another type of shape and then made sure it matched up so I could go ahead and glue it on there. It doesn't hurt to have your scissors as well, because it is easier to cut with the scissors than the X-Acto knife once it's not on a giant sheet. and also just using a regular pencil is really nice. I went ahead and then added some glue and then glued it onto the corner. I did put a little bit too much on this one and was having a little bit of trouble for it to glue down, but it's okay. In the end, it worked out. So once you know that that piece is secure, you're going to want to go ahead and move on to the next section. On the next section, I did the same exact routine. I went ahead and looked at my reference picture and said, all right, what can fill in that shape? There's another shape there, so I went ahead and cut out a random shape that kind of corresponded with it and tried to make it fit as best as possible. And once again, these scrap pieces are just 5mm EVA foam, which stacking them on top would then make it a 10mm. But since I'm not putting it on the entire section, it didn't make the bracer too thick. Same thing, we're just going to be holding it down here and just waiting for that bracer to go ahead and that piece to completely dry. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab another piece of scrap fabric and just draw out another shape here to kind of correspond to the pattern that I'm looking at. So I am looking at the bracers there. I have a bunch of reference pictures, but they're all very blurry and at different angles, so I had to try to guess as best as possible what was going to be next. I then went ahead and just cut it out with my scissors and made sure it aligned at the bottom. I grabbed another scrap piece of fabric, another scrap piece of EVA foam, and decided that that was the perfect shape. I went ahead and glued that piece of EVA foam on top, and then I went ahead and did the same with the one at the bottom earlier. Now I needed to go ahead and use my moldable foam again, because at the very top of this bracer she does have some lava balls. So I went ahead and started just shaping little balls and then making them into half circles once I added them at the bottom. I added glue as always and then went ahead and stick them down. I tried to keep the look as consistent as possible, but then there was one ball that was actually way bigger and higher, so that's where this last one comes in. Afterwards, you actually do have to go ahead and use the heat gun on this one. Since we don't have a lot of moldable foam, it worked out great. Be very careful with the heat gun. This does help it shape very easily though. As you can see, it's starting to condensate, and there was times where the EVA foam was rising, but I was just able to kind of glue it down with that heat as well. Do it in little increments, and as you're doing the little increments, start bending it and folding it, as you can see what I'm doing there. I ended up using some tape to stick it together in the end. The heat gun does take a bit of time. This is my first time ever using a heat gun, but I will say it was a game changer from a hairdryer. So if you have a heat gun, use the heat gun instead of the hairdryer. Definitely don't be afraid to use it, because it will make your folding so much easier. I did have to glue some areas a little bit more, but when you apply heat on the glue, it actually dries a little bit faster and allows it to go ahead and stick a lot faster, which is why I was using that heat gun in those areas. So that's pretty much how the bracer looks on, which I was super excited about. I went ahead and added duct tape because we weren't going to get back to these until later on, and I wanted to make sure that they stayed in its shape. Even though the heat gun has been already added, it still, has a possibility that it will get out of its shape. So definitely go ahead and add some duct tape, don't be afraid. I went ahead and added the heat gun onto my first bracer as well, just in case. Now that we kind of had more of a shape, I did just want to add it to the EVA foam itself just to make sure it stayed in that shape. I then reapplied duct tape on that one just so we can make sure that it dries and stays in that shape as well. And these are the complete bracers. Like I said, I did end up finishing these on my stream, just the construction of them. Sometimes on my stream I do cosplay related things and just video games. I am a variety streamer, so if you'd like to stop by, ask me questions, definitely feel free. I am, like I said, live every Wednesday and Friday. Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Central Time, and Friday at 5 p.m. Central Time at Rosie's Life, ROSYSLIFE. And I hope y'all like this video. Don't forget that I am now on Patreon. Y'all can go ahead and check out my link in the description below. And if you want to go ahead and get this pattern in the future, definitely go ahead and check out my tier 3 on my Patreon. And yeah, I can't wait to try to get as many things as I can out and for y'all, and I'm really excited to continue working on this project. Next thing I plan on working on is possibly the boots, so that'll be a really fun one. I can't wait to bring out more Lavagirl content for y'all. Please like, subscribe, and I will talk to y'all later. Thanks for sticking by for the end of the video as well. I know this was quite a bit, but I'm totally flexing on these bracers. Stay tuned for part 2, by the way, the painting process. Alright, bye everyone! I will see you next time.